Alrighty. Obviously, that was the thing on the big screen. We did a little hands count before, and not a lot of you have seen it on the big screen. I don't know about you, but it's amazing to see films that you've only seen on the TV.
Or your phone.
Or your phone. And then to see it on the big screen as they were meant to be seen and heard in a theater with people that are excited to see what you're watching. And I find that when you watch a movie in a crowd that loves something as much as you love, the energy is there, you know, and everyone's so excited and we laugh at the same bits, we gasp. Even one of the jump scares still got me. I know it's there. I know what's going to happen, yet it still shocked me. And that's what's so exciting about seeing a movie in a movie theater. Alan has more stories than we even have time for. So I kind of really just want to really open that up to you and share some of that knowledge that you have, because you know more about this film than any of us here.
Well, I was there, you know?
Yeah, and all I know is what I've watched, all of the, you know, documentaries, I've watched the making of, I've watched all of that about it, but yet you still know that little intricate story of like, oh yeah, that's the day that John tripped and nicked his you know, smacked his knee. Is like, what? You know,
yeah, well, you reminded me of another story too. Thanks for that. All right, let me do a little timeline here. All right, so my first movie with John Carpenter was scoring Escape from New York.
Woo!
1979. My first film score. I mean, you know, right out of the gate, boom. I actually started taking film scoring classes while I was scoring Escape from New York.
It's a good start.
I figured I'm already doing it. I might as well figure out what I'm doing. You know? So I was at UCLA. That was interesting. So we're finishing up the score to Escape from New York. This is all in my dining room in Glendale. It's nothing elaborate. I had all the gear. John had the movie. We hung out together and we're doing it. And so we're at the end of the mix. And John looks over and he says, "Hey, Alan, I just got my assignment. My next movie is going to be The Thing." And he says, "And this is going to be a really bitch of a shoot. It's going to take all my time, and they want to make another fucking Halloween. You're just going to have to do it." So he literally threw Halloween 2 over the fence. Like, I'm going to be too busy. You take care of Halloween. So he threw me Halloween 2 as like, do that. Meanwhile, he went off to do The Thing. So I didn't have contact with him direct till later on, but now he comes back after the shoot one afternoon and he says, "We got to do some more music." "What?" He says, "Well, you know, Ennio Dorn did a score. We got that, but I need a little bit more music, you know, here and there." And some of it's sort of some of the cues are like, sort of like Christine, sort of synth drone thing. So for one afternoon, I just did it. I didn't get it credit. It was just, I didn't get paid. I did it as a buddy, you know, we're just hanging out. And then the other thing I was doing during post was I was turning in sound effects. So all the sound effects of the dog and that last creature when it's the double dog.
Double dog. You can get that at Pink's too.
Yeah, those are sound effects that I did because I have, in those days, the sound effects editors were on moviolas. I don't know if you know what that means, but the sound was cut in 35 millimeter mag stripes. And the editor had no tools. There was no computers. There was no reverbs. There was no, in fact, to do a fade, they would literally take a piece of masking tape and put it across this 35 millimeter film and take acetone and wipe down half the thing so it would have a little stripe on it, and that would be a fade. I mean, this was like the Navy. It was nothing to do with anything modern. But I had all the cool stuff in the recording studio, so that's why, you know, the keyboard. So I'm making all these sounds, and so I contributed. Well, now we turn that in. I get to go to a screening, and now the stories. You know, John starts telling me the stories. He says, "Alan, that shoot and we had to go to British Columbia. That whole opening scene, we had to go there and put all the explosives and everything before it snowed. All the, we had to plan the whole scene in advance, and then go away and come back after it snowed. And we only had one shot because otherwise there would be tracks in the snow. So the risks that this movie takes to pull off what you see, incredible. I mean, they really pushed the envelope. He said that going up to the site where that was, they were in this it's all freezing. I mean, it's like whatever, late October, November, and the ride in the bus was up this icy road, and they almost didn't make it, and they have to get there before dawn. It was freezing, and then the sun would come out, and they'd all get windburn, and they all came back pretty fatigued from the experience. And now they go to Universal, and they're going to shoot all the sets interior. They had to have double and triple air conditioning because they wanted the breath. So those sets were freezing.
I mean, that was something I was just remarking on watching this again, when they're outside in the wind and everything, and you automatically just think, oh, they got some wind generators up there and they're throwing, fake snow. And then you're like, no, this is 1982.
Yeah.
It's just real snow. They just went out there and hey, it's this windy and cold.
Yeah.
Try to make it to that shack and we can shoot you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, the chances. And then the special effects, the guy who was in charge of his name is Rob Bottin, and he had done some other special effects, and he was super talented. And he was the one who pitched John Carpenter the idea of the thing could be anything. John bit that. I love that, right? Because otherwise, in the original thing, if you remember, it's like a carrot man, and then just the one guy, and he's. But the idea that it could sneak, put this whole other storyline. We're going on through the blood testing, everything. Who is the thing through the movie, and even to the end, we don't know.
I believe my personal canon is that bottle was one of the explosions. That was a Molotov cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
And so he handed him kerosene or gasoline, and he just chugged it. And that's why McReady laughs. Because at that moment, he knows he's a thing.
Because he didn't choke.
Yes, because he's a gasoline. I was like, oh, this is great. I love gasoline. And that's where I'm like, because then McReady's expression and chuckle to me says that's the foreshadowing that Childs was the last thing that was there.
Very possible.
And the one that he blew up was the one from the very first scene that jumped up into the roof because it was still dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So
could be. Well, they actually shot a scene where McReady survives. There's actually a scene of him back, recapping of having somehow survived, and he's in an office running down that.
What happened?
What happened? Of course, they threw that away.
It's better not knowing. It's better that one moment that you leave the end of the movie and you're like, is it this? Is it that? And you don't know.
Well, this is filmmaking from that time. You don't tell everything. You leave things hanging. It's like when we did Escape from New York. That you may have heard that there was this famous bank robbery opening.
I have that on my Laserdisc copy.
Yeah, and the score is a good piece of score. We scored it. It was in the movie, and then they did one screening, and somebody in the screening said, if you didn't show that, and Snake Plissken just showed up, he's a stronger character. He's got mystery, so they just threw it away.
Yeah.
So this is even in horror. Rather than seeing the knife go in and every part of the blood scream, the knife comes up, and then you cut to his face, and he goes, ah! Good enough. Yeah. For me, I'm random. One of the most horrible scenes is the opening of Jaws, when the girl goes skinny dipping. And we know the shark is devouring this naked chick. I mean, it's like you fill in all the horror here. You don't need to show it. That was the part of how you made movies then. It's different now.
Speaking of horror, a lot of this movie that really gets you is the transformation sequences, where it goes from there's a person to there's something else. and it's so dramatic. But a lot of that, what you were telling me, was one-off FX.
Oh yeah, just consider the scene where the hand it comes out of the guy and it breaks into another creature and crawls around. All that stuff is not that's real. It's rubber and goo and wire puppets and manipulating, and then you're going to burn it. You don't get another shot. So the pressure that was created to make that movie on the crew and the deliverables, et cetera. I mean, Larry Franco told me one time, at one point they wanted to kill Rob Bottin because the whole movie was hanging on him delivering. And for Rob Bottin, when he stepped into it, back to the story, so he figured, well, we're going to do these creatures, and they're all going to be in the shadows and stuff like that. And Dean kind of goes, no, let's light it up and really see it. So the what do you call it? The technical creep from you're going to be in the shadows to lighting it up, all of a sudden the deliverable went 10x, had to be better, because you couldn't just cheat. It was like completely on camera exposed, and they delivered. They really delivered. So
And delivered nightmares to many people over the years.
So
I never want to compress somebody's chest.
Oh yeah.
That scares me to this day. It's like, well, what if he's a thing? It's just not a job for me. I'm not going to do it.
So one little story about the score. So John gets to hire Ennio Morricone as his composer. Now, John loves Western movies. Ennio Morricone is the guy. That's him.
Yeah.
So he hires him. They meet. Ennio goes off to Italy and writes the score and records a whole orchestra and brings it to John. Here's your score. And John says, I don't know whether it was lost in translation or something. And I loved what he gave me, but I had to say, it's not quite there yet. And he didn't know how to do that. How do you tell your hero that? So John played him the score we had done from Escape from New York. And Ennio went back one more time and got a bunch of synth guys. And that's where that famous opening theme comes, is actually Ennio Morricone performing John Carpenter. Now, John will tell you that never happened, and they asked him, but somebody else said, Ennio Morricone actually put that in his book, so I know it's true.
And that's why you guys paid admission today.
Yeah. So I came out to just watch the end of the movie because it's so amazing. And this movie ends on such a down tone. I mean, this is no happy ending. This is like, but it was a weird movie. Okay, a fabulous movie, but a weird movie.
What I've noticed again, watching again on the big screen, you get a new appreciation for a film that you've probably seen a lot of times. And when you have music, it's very powerful in the moment. And there's also stretches of the film where there's no sound.
Well, no, there is sound, but there's no music.
There's no music.
It's the wind and the ambience and the
and that's
setup.
what even makes it even more stressful at the moment.
Yeah.
Because the music isn't telling you what's going to happen. You just have that silence before something happens. And then the music jumps in with the jump scare, and now you're back into the moment. But that lull of not having music.
It's the setup.
Was yes.
That's the
setup.
technique of the movies. It's funny. I do a lot of sound effects work besides the music. And there's this very famous sound effects guy, Ben Bird, who do all the sound effects for Star Wars.
Yep.
And somebody asked Ben one time, he said, Ben, all your explosions are so amazing. How do you get those great explosions? And Ben says, you make sure it's really quiet before it happens. It's a setup. It's the same thing in the music.
Yeah.
You creep around and then it happens. Right? It's the volume. It just can't be loud all the time. So these are.
Well, that's not how they make movies today.
This is a textbook. If you're a film student, you have to study this movie. Yeah. Carpenter used to study Sam Peckinpah movies. That was one of his guys that he knew that he was one of the guys that pushed the envelope early on in filmmaking. may not be popular, but he was a filmmaker that was a filmmaker, not somebody who was asked to go to the studios or to the this or that. He was making his movies. And that's what John Carpenter was doing, making studios. In fact, a little tag. So after this stressful shoot, and John finishes it, and Adrienne Barbeau go to the Bahamas for a vacation, to get away, and this was John's story. He says, so they come back and they're in the airport, and here's a copy of Life magazine, or Time magazine, with E.T. on the cover. And Adrienne looks to John and goes, I think we have a problem. What had happened is Universal Studios released E.T. and The Thing at the same time. You got the cutest monster and the nastiest monster at the same time. And how do they gauge the good and the bad movie? It's the box office. There was no review, there was no internet, there was no fan base. They gauged everything by how much ticket sales it had. So The Thing just kind of sat because E.T. dominated. So it was out for like a month, and they pulled it. And it was considered a flop.
And this, again, becomes one of the reasons that we love it so much, is that this then became a heavy hitter in the video market. The big change in movies was VHS tapes and the rentals. It meant that a movie that maybe didn't do well would then do well in the second market, which was rentals.
Yeah.
And this is before they were selling tapes. They didn't start selling tapes until, I think the only one that came out right off the bat at a retail price. So in the original video stores, when this would come out on tape, it would be $100.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what rental tapes cost, which is why you paid so much in rentals. Terminator 2 came out at a buy price. It was $19.99. That was the first time a video came out straight to sales. And skipping, well, they were still in the rental market. You could buy it straight. And that started a whole new fad of then buying your tapes right off the bat. But the video rentals is why we love some of these movies so much, because you would go and you would rent it, and you loved it. So maybe a month or two later, you'd go in. My family would go in every week to rent stuff.
Yeah.
And you would then pick out whatever your favorite thing was, because we didn't have a way to see stuff on demand. It was whatever the rental store had when you went in. We went in on Friday night to return it on Monday. And so you would rent it again. And you would rent it again. And you would rent it again. And then it would be on cable later on. And now you're watching it whenever it comes on. You're just flipping channels and you're like, there's The Thing, I'm done. And you put that remote down. That's why we love these movies so much. Because at that point, it wasn't like we had a million choices right now on our phones. You had a chance to watch it, and you chose to watch it over and over again. And by rewatching it those many times, this now becomes your personal zeitgeist, your mythology, your things. Like, I watched this at Halloween because at a party I went to when I was a kid, they put it on, and I didn't know what it was, but I was glued to that screen. I knew Kurt Russell, and I'm like, well, you know, it's John Carpenter. I knew John Carpenter from Escape, and it blew me away. I didn't know something could be scary without a slasher. This was, the atmosphere was scary. The performances were very genuine of people scared. In fact, I think a lot of those guys were brave. Like, you would see a monster and they would jump into that room. I'd be jumping the other direction. Who goes into a dog kennel with a big fleshy thing whipping around? You don't enter that room. You just burn it to the ground. They were brave. Those guys were very brave. And it holds up. It holds up so well that we're still watching it today on the big screen.
There's some other things. You watch this movie, except for the technology, the big phones and the funky computers, everything else could be still today. it is timeless. It's just the choice of the costume, the shoes, the whatever. It's just still today. And this is 50 years ago, almost.
Yeah.
Still, it just, that's something that Carpenter knows how to do. Even if you watch the original Halloween, it looks like regular people. He stays away from style enough to make it a neutral forever look, just an average kind of thing. He kept that up. It reminded me of one in the character development. Now remember, there's no women in this movie. This is an all-male cast.
Well, we didn't check the dogs.
Okay. You got me on that one. But when he was, actually when we were still finishing up, because the thing, there was a little more Escape from New York, I always wear my keys on my belt. It's just a thing I do. I always have a thing on my, and so I had, at the time, I had a little keychain that had a little chain on it. You could lock the door and not have to take it off.
Yeah.
And John goes, "Where'd you get that?" "Why?" He says, "Just tell me where you got it." "Well, I got that at Sears or whatever." "Okay, great. That's what's on the belt of the guy." So he's picking from the real world the characterizations that he wants to drop into the movie. That's his observation. He is an observer of real life, and that's why he can put this into the movies.
Seeing it on the big screen, I could identify the model kits that were in the bookcase.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something I could see when I'm watching on the TV.
Yeah, well, this was really filmed in 70 millimeter, too.
Yeah.
So if you know what that is, normally film is 35 millimeters. That's what was standard. This is twice as wide, so you've got twice as much film. So in the world of resolution, I'll make this up, if it was an 8K res, it's now a 16K res. So you got more, you can really blow it up
Yeah.
to details, and the details are really in there.
Yeah.
And then
that was just something that I've never even seen watching it as many times as
Until
I
you saw it
watched
this
it.
big.
Until I saw it this big.
Yeah, I actually went to a 70 millimeter screening in Hollywood one time. I was on a panel. It's amazing. It's true art. I mean, the simplest definition of art is a communication. And then you choose the media. It could be dance, it could be music, it could be words, whatever. A movie has all those forms of art in one shot in 90 minutes. And you got tens of thousands of hours of people's work, like the finest whiskey distilled to just the best with all, and then you have a director that is the filter on every choice. John said to me one time, he says, "Alan, it's really easy to be a good director, you know." I says, "What?" He says, "You only need to know 2 words, yes and no, and use them all the time. To say, well, I don't know, give me blue and red and I'll let you know tomorrow which one I like. You've just created more work for that person. You're wasted it. It's better to say, give me the red one, and give you the red one. And then you go, really? I should have told you blue." But to send somebody out to give you both, indecision is the worst direction. You have to be decisive. And you should use it that way even in your own life. How many times have you said, "I'm going to clean out the fucking garage or the basement or whatever," and you didn't do it? Just goddamn clean out the garage,
Obviously filming on location was very, very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And then all the interior stuff that was shot in a studio.
Yeah, it was in Universal Studios in L.A. They were coming out of lunchtime in all these winter coats, and it's sunny L.A. And they're literally, what? These people are fucking nuts. No, they were still freezing for being in the set at freezing.
Yeah.
It was like triple air conditioning. It was wild. I mean, this was movie making like Army level. Yeah. And when you did it, you had a backup to the backup to the backup, because you got $1 million worth of stuff all queued up to make this thing happen, and it better happen. And when you're going to burn something, you got to have 6 cameras running, because you're not going to get to do it again. So you better get 10 positions on this thing and figure it out later.
Yeah.
You overbuild, you overshoot, you over everything so that you can do this distilling and get the best and the finest from everything.
Do you think this was his most difficult film to shoot?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, his own testimony. It was just the going to British Columbia and the ice and the snow and the stuff, and you see John Carpenter's affinity for helicopters too, right? After the thing, he bought 2. Yeah, and he actually learned how to fly helicopters.
Wow.
That's how much he loved them. What had happened is he started taking lessons, and this guy Duke, who I knew was the pilot from Earth, Wind and Fire, we used to fly around with the guy. Duke said, John was about to buy a helicopter. He goes, John, if you're going to buy one, buy 2. Why? He says, because then we can rent them back to the movie company. So he made his own helicopters so he could rent his own helicopters. I know I digress.
Yeah.
He says, the craziest thing about learning to fly a helicopter is the final test when you have to cut the engine and land it with the engine off. Because you have to be ready for the engine, and basically there's a thing, you let the thing come down fast, and then you pull up at the last minute to get the thing spinning enough to just make it hit. And you have to do that test. He says it's incredible.
Wow.
John likes macho. He does. Remember, he was hung out with Roddy Piper came out because he was hanging out with the WWF and Alice Cooper and these guys, and he loved the act of aggression and fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still staged, but those guys are not kidding around. They're tossing each other around. They're hit. Look at the fight from the Thing, or from They Live.
Yeah, yeah.
The extended fight scene. He said that when they were doing that stuff, they had masseuses on the set because they were hitting. in fact, the first time he ran the fight scene for me, I know I'm going over, but it's fun. When they were doing the fight scene, John was going, as it was running, he's going, impact, impact, impact. Every time they really hit each other, he was taking like, yeah, they're fighting. We're not faking it. It's not like, no, they hit.
Well, the cast on The Thing, when you look back at it, there's a lot of very recognizable faces in there.
Oh yeah.
And you still wonder while you're watching the whole film, even though you know who's a thing and who's not a thing, you still kind of wonder just a little bit, especially in the beginning. Up to that moment, you believed Windows was an alien.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they do it, because they're shooting him when he's giving that Kubrick stare, I like to call it, where he's like looking down, and then suddenly it sizzles, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm good." And that's it hits you so hard in that moment, but then it also gives you that levity for the very next one is bad.
Yeah.
You know, you weren't prepared for it.
No,
and I think that's where the timing of every single shot is done so well to hit with maximum effort on every impact.
Mm-hmm.
It really leaves you breathless at the end.
Yeah, no, it's a masterpiece. That's why we watched it tonight. Did we enjoy it? Is it a good movie? I think so.
What would you like to let everybody here go home with knowing about the movie?
You never quit.
Never quit.
As soon as you quit, you lose. If you want to be a winner, you just keep doing it till you die. And that's the way that's the way this movie was addressed. There were so many challenges that were put right to the limit, and there wasn't a quit. It says, we're doing it. And the director created so much confidence that he knew what he was doing that the rest of the crew said, we're doing it. It's like, well, everybody's worried that the bridge is out up there. He says, the bridge will be there. It'll be fixed by the time we get there. Just keep going. Direction.
There you go. And we won't talk about the remake.
No, we're not going to talk about anything
We
else.
don't talk about the remake.
How could you touch this again?
They did a
Just
horrible
the
job.
acting, just the actors. That's why they won't make Escape from New York a sequel. I mean, who could play Kurt Russell? They're talking about his son doing it. I mean, there's a possibility.
A prequel.
But, yeah. But
Cleveland.
The Battle of Cleveland.
Yeah. With the creatures and the music, what's the thing that stands out in your head when you guys were trying to get that feel?
It's an atmosphere, right? I mean, Morricone scores. There's great themes there. But then it was the secondary polish that was from John Carpenter, shaping it into a John Carpenter movie from a spaghetti western to a John Carpenter movie. You know, it's every time it says John Carpenter's The Thing, John Carpenter's Escape from New York. That's his movie. He takes full ownership. There's no pocket, no excuse. And if he takes the hit, he takes the hit.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing there. Did you want to do any questions?
Anybody got any questions? Go ahead. Shoot.
What's it like working with John Carpenter?
All right. What's it like working with John Carpenter? He is just completely accessible. He knows bullshit. Calls you out instantly. Don't bullshit me. Tell me the truth. You know. And like I said, I for me working with him when we did the scoring, the arrangement was I had all the gear. It was at my house. He had the movie. He came over. We sat down. I was in charge of all the gear for sure. In fact, there would be times when I'd try to explain something technically. He goes, Alan, don't even explain. That's your job. Don't even tell me. I don't need to know that. I just know it works. It's in tune. And when I go to play, it's going to be there. Now, as composers, he's the composer because he wrote the movie. He directed the movie. He edited the movie. He knows what he wants. When you're a composer for another director, that director has to direct the composer what to do, but it's the same guy. So there was no miscommunication.
Yeah, I mean, he's filming it within his head what he wants to hear.
Yeah, and I was so privileged to sit in a room with John Carpenter for 8 movies, watching him make the music for his own movie. So I learned musical storytelling, which they don't teach in school, from the guy. It's like being an apprentice for Da Vinci or Michelangelo. You get to learn how to do it. And that's the greatest gift I ever got in this lifetime.
Do you think that's one of the important things about his films that hit so hard, is that he's in charge of both the visual, the story, and then the music on top is all from the same person?
It hasn't been farmed out. He does the whole thing. Yes. Now, he also, another thing for filmmakers, he develops a loyal team of people to work with so that he doesn't have to re-explain it the next time. We already went through this, Alan. You know what I want, right? And I do, because we already went through this. Bringing in new people because they cost less or whatever dynamics there are is slowing down at the success of the project. So he had a loyal team of people that loved him, he loved them. They just did it again and again and again, and that's why it was successful. I had one other tag. So I was interviewed in a movie documentary. The posture of the movie was the greatest movies ever made were made in 1982. Why did that happen?
I'm waiting for the answer. Right.
Well, Blade Runner, E.T., The Thing, The Last Emperor, Halloween 2. I mean, there was this whole... Why did that happen? Because that was the young filmmakers that rose in the 70s and all got deals in 1980, 81 to make a movie for the big studios. And the big studios left them alone and let them make their movies. Go through this now. You try to make a movie, they're doing surveys, and you got to through it endings, and you got to, and the marketing people are involved, and the product placement. It's just all messed up. These are movies that are made by one person, the director. Spielberg, Kubrick, Carpenter,
Yeah.
Zemeckis.
It really has a big punch.
So that's the way they did it. That's for us to learn.
There we go. We got another question? You're going to have to yell because I literally told them not to bring out the mobile mic. Hat.
Pick somebody.
Did
Go
you
ahead.
go ahead and get any souvenirs from the film? Like any of the props or anything to take home?
His question is, did he get any souvenirs or props from the film?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. It's hard to get snow out of there.
No.
Glasses
Well, they
behind
burned
him.
most of it.
I was going to ask something that I've always been curious about on multiple rewatches is how you determine how to make the noises for the jump scares, like when Blair comes out behind Gary or when the shape passes in front of Hughes. How did you make that sound?
The question is, how do you make the sounds for the jump scares? Even if you guys can hear it, I'm just double downing that
Yeah, no,
that guy
that's a
back
good
there
question.
couldn't hear you.
All right, so obviously it has an immediate jump from silence to loud, no matter what it is. Now, what happens after that initial thing? Is it short? Is it long? Does it sustain? These are all choices. And then in sound, you got ranges. You got the bass, the middle, and the high. Usually the scariest stuff's in the high. But the oomph is in the bottom. So you make sure the sound has all that. It has a lot of high, a lot of medium, and a lot of low, and you balance. All right, and that's all in the mix. It's like a cake, right? You bake the cake and you put the icing on it. And for me, just as a sound designer, let's talk about this. I was an art student when I was in high school. A painter drawer kid. I was going to be somebody that was a professional, one of those guys. And
I wanted to draw comic books.
and music was like a sidebar. It was fun. I played the saxophone in the high school band. And then I got bit by rock and roll. Hell with art. I'm going for rock and roll. Grew my hair long, joined the band, made records, toured. My band opened for The Who, opened for The Cream. I was going to be like a rock star. Our producer was the same producer that did the Eagles, Bill Simzik.
What was your band?
It was called The Silk.
There you go. I answered your question back there.
And this was in Northeast Ohio. Bill Simzik was the producer, and it was our sister group was the James Gang, which was Joe Walsh. So I know Joe Walsh from the days. So this would be 1970-ish kind of thing. And then I got in the band business. If your band doesn't get a hit, very shortly after that, everybody in the band hates each other, and they start another band. And it's, but I was the tech guy, so I had the van, and I had the PA system, and the lighting system. So
They needed you.
Yeah, so I had the gear, and it was endless singers, and I was a bass player, and the guitars keep rotating people. Eventually, I just got into the gear, and I made my own music in recording studios, and so that got me into the synth and my whole thing. So what comes out of my film scores was all that experimenting with synthesizers and echoes and equipment and stuff like that. But that's what John Carpenter hired me to do.
He loves the synth.
And it was perfect because I knew everything about it. I can open the things up and get the soldering gun out. I know how to fix those things. I mean, as an artist, I wanted to know everything from the pick to the string to the pickup to the amp to the speaker to the thing to the board to the out the speaker. I had to know that stuff. I had a passion for it. Well, that passion is what made me an expert at that. And then somebody asked me, "Hey, could you do that?" And I go, "Yeah," and I was good at it. So I got the gig. Right? That's
There
how
you
do
go.
it.
Rad. Got another question?
Go ahead, right here.
While you were on set and during production, do you have any distinctive ideas or anything that, whether or not they evolved when they went up against John Carpenter's vision, you can really point to anything that you want to?
His question is, while he was working on the film, did you have any decisions that you... Sorry, I messed up kind of re-explaining that.
All right, I
He wanted to know, did you say, "Hey, John, this needs to be done this way," and John went with it?
Think of it this way. John was the composer. I was the electronic orchestra. So I had to take his thoughts and turn it into something that turned into music and sound that went to the tape. And so that was the exercise. He was the director. So he already decided we want this or we don't. There's a couple times we actually did a cue, and he came in the next day and he says, just erase it. It's garbage.
That's the yes
so
and no.
That's him changing his mind. Okay, so it was all two guys hanging out. We had a great time. He used to say that coming to do the music with me was like being on vacation, because it stepped away from being director, producer, finance, schedule, and he could just relax and make the music for his movie.
And he loved making music.
And he still does. And he's now. Somebody asked him, would he make another movie? He goes, I don't even want to work that hard. That's too much work. Music, he's
They can do that.
just enough. Yeah.
It's great. I want to thank the Frida for allowing Moviebusters to come out here and do these events. We do them every so often. Just keep an eye on the Frida's incredibly robust schedule of great films here at a nonprofit art house. That's what this place is. They have lots of great stuff and information up front. There is a poster up there with Twin Peaks, and it shows the rest of their month, all scheduled ahead. And hopefully we'll have some more events that we can hold here.
Speaking of events, I'm working on possibly coming back here and playing some live film music for you guys soon.
Stay tuned to those calendars and mark
yeah.
up the Frida.
Yeah.